Welcome back to the Bastard Show.
I just want a picture of a goddamn hot dog.
Today, you are witnessing the fall of two very queer, very sad motherfuckers, and this is our coping mechanism.
Every time I am on this channel, my hair will be longer, my mental health will be worse, and it will be more unhinged.
That's me, but every week.
Today, we are answering questions. Where's the questions? Found them.
We're answering questions, but we can't find the questions.
It's true. And they're spread out across 3 different social media platforms, so God save the fucking queen. Yeah, we're doing an AMA because I'm back in town, which I rarely am, so special treat for you guys.
Because Eli goes to school like a normal person.
Like the regular suffering bastard.
Eli after high school. Wow, I sure do want 4 more years of this.
No, literally. I had the option to stop where I was.
My 400 IQ brain was like, or I could just do 3 years and never do it again.
Going to college doesn't mean you're smart. It means that if you don't have depression already, they're gonna catch you some. How do you refrain from freaking losing it in the struggles of today and what feels like a non-existent future?
You're not asking the right people.
I don't refrain from freaking losing it is the answer.
Eli is consistently McFreakin' losing it, and I am in a consistent state of neutrality where I just don't care. And I don't know how to explain this to people without sounding like a fucking sociopath.
0. 100.
People are like, aren't you scared about the inevitable heat death of the universe? No.
Bring it on. I want to be cooked like a rotisserie chicken. What are you currently really interested in, or what's something you know a lot about that you want to share a fun fact about? My fun fact is that there are 20,000 species of bee in the world, and 4,000 of them are in North America. Fuck yeah, love bees. Recently, I have been really into reading about extreme haunts, which are like haunted houses, except you need therapy after them. If you've heard of McCamey Manor, it's like those, but they have moral codes.
It's not like very extremely fucking illegal.
Yeah, McCamey Manor is just a torture chamber.
Don't look it up.
I like the idea of extreme haunts because I like the idea of extreme emotional distress and physical... I can't use the word distress again. I need to think of a new one.
Trauma.
Ideally, you shouldn't leave with long-lasting trauma, only short-term stuff. I've never actually gone to an extreme haunt. There aren't a lot in this area, and also they're expensive and typically have very long wait lists. But they're fun to read about and good for spooky season.
Glad to know I'm not the only person that self-harms with psychological trauma.
Yeah. I liked it. There's this website called haunting.net, and it's like a Los Angeles-based just network of horror experiences, haunts and like theater productions and mazes and stuff, just Halloween attractions basically. And people will go into these extreme haunts and they'll write reviews about it, but the reviews always look like weird Lovecraftian fiction, and it's wonderful. You can just tell somebody wrote it at like 3 a.m, 4 pots of coffee in, reliving the mental distress of the haunt experience, and that's where I want to be.
I feel like I'm constantly in a state of no thoughts, head empty. I can't get interested in anything ever at all anymore. So I either need to up my meds or I'm just like this. And Eli is looking at me like, no, you need to up your meds.
Up your meds, or I will up them for you.
I guess what I'm into right now is Genshin Impact, like a fucking loser.
I can't judge. I play League of Legends. Thoughts and prayers are accepted.
I know you're not, but that's virgin behavior.
It really is. I was playing a match recently and someone was flaming and they kept saying like virgin behavior in all chat, and I was like, dude, we're playing ranked League of Legends on a Tuesday. Neither of us are ever gonna know the loving embrace of a woman, okay? Psych, I actually do have a girlfriend though, so Which is more sporadic, your sleep cycles or whose turn it is on the brain cell?
I have a shift job, which means that your sleep schedule will be continuously fucked over and over again until your boss is happy. Okay, so mine's more fucked up because my boss will go, hey, this Saturday, you're gonna do a 6 a.m. opening shift. And then the next day, 10 to 4:30. And then the next day, another 6 a.m. And then the next day, you're closing. Fuck you.
As for whose turn it is on the brain cell, I would say neither of us.
This one's supposed to be in college, but I don't think...
Supposed to be, for sure.
But I don't think...
I haven't checked my grades in about 2 years. So.
Yeah, so I don't think that's a good signifier of who has the brain cell and who doesn't. Yeah, we don't have one anymore. Why are you asking this?
So sleep cycles wins the question. That's more sporadic.
Yeah.
It kind of wins by default because the brain cell is
Gone. We lost it.
How to deal with misgendering.
Eli, you want to answer this one?
Fuck if I know, dude. I'm probably not the best person to ask because the way I describe my trans identity to cis people who have a specific idea of what being trans entails is that I identify as trans in a way that doesn't really demand anything of anyone. Like, you can use she, her pronouns with me and I'm not really gonna care. But that's just my own flavor of non-binary. And everyone deals with misgendering differently. It's certainly never a good feeling when it happens, especially when it's intentional or malicious. If it isn't and it's happening accidentally, biggest question to ask yourself is it safe to correct someone? Both to the individual and like the setting you're in, so consider that. And if you do feel like it's safe, I would recommend pulling them aside or shooting them a text and being like, hey, please refer to me by these pronouns or this name. And you don't necessarily have to say like, hey, I identify as XYZ. They'll put that together themselves. Or if they have questions, hopefully they'll ask in a respectful way. If you don't feel like it's safe, I'm afraid you can't really go anywhere from there because your safety should always come first. And although it is damaging emotionally and mentally to be misgendered, potentially outing yourself to the wrong people at the wrong place at the wrong time could have very hazardous consequences. So it's a balancing act. And if you're getting misgendered a lot in your life, I would recommend trying to seek out spaces where you aren't misgendered, specifically queer circles, online or in person. They're out there. You just gotta dig for them a little bit, but that's how I would go about it personally. How do you stay positive and fun?
Once again, I think you're asking the wrong people.
Sorry, what was the question?
Eli self-medicates and
with absurd amounts of stimulants.
And I don't stay positive and fun. I exist in a constant state of torment.
I would say I'm negative and fun.
Anyways, the answer is we stay negative and fun.
Tell Eli to promote their art. Say less. Okay, so last time I was here, I was like, you can commission me for portraits on Instagram. And then I stopped being active on Instagram. TLDR, I still do portraits, but I've gotten into other forms of art as well that I sell, namely ceramics right now. So if you're looking for decorative ceramics mostly, I don't have a ton of food safe stuff at the moment. I'm working on that. You can find my art, which would be paintings, ceramics. I still do custom portraits. They're just taking forever right now because my life is in shambles.
It's not funny.
And there's other odds and ends. I have some leftover prints of stuff from art shows. So odds and ends you can find on my Twitter now, where I am much more active. Zed's Dead with 3 underscores.
Because they're a League virgin.
Yes, I play Zed League of Legends.
Zed League of Legends?
Zed League of Legends, is that you? Zed's Dead with 3 underscores. I just posted a batch of shit I got out of the kiln recently. That's only like half of it. I got a bunch of bowls out, but the glaze has pinholes, which typically indicates it's not food safe. So I'm gonna talk with my ceramics professor and see what I can do to fix that. Follow me on Twitter if you want my art, DM me. Oh, if you buy multiple products and you want a bundle deal, I can work with that. I also do free shipping after a certain amount of stuff. And I'm gonna run a sale sometime early to mid-November because I know people are looking to do Christmas shopping. So if you're looking for a unique one-of-a-kind gift, or you need, like, I don't know, ceramics to throw at your neighbors because you hate them, I'm gonna be making more stuff. Probably ornaments as well. But right now I have a lot of decorative pieces. Is there anything you miss about yourselves? Man, I wish I'd taken a fat bong rip before getting on camera with this question. Yes.
No, I've been horrendous for a very long time. I miss how I was before I turned the age of 10.
I wouldn't say I miss. I certainly miss certain parts of my life before I met certain people or had certain experiences that permanently altered the course of my life, but I think that's a pretty universal thing, you know? Nobody wants bad things to happen to them or to meet shitty people. I wouldn't say I miss anything about myself in particular. I think I've stayed decently true to myself over the years. But opinion on food deserts. Bad.
Bad.
Should not be a thing on a planet that produces as much food as it does, especially in the United States. If this isn't something you've really heard about, I recommend giving it a quick little Google search and learning about what a food desert is and why it happens. And I think it shouldn't happen because another thing that America's terrible with is food waste, especially deliberate food waste. Basically, anything that isn't sold gets thrown out by farmers, by stores, by corporations, restaurants, and that to me is atrocious. It's perfectly edible food that is being intentionally destroyed simply because it can't turn a profit. And because of that, people go hungry.
I have been working at a store that has a grocery section for 3 years now. And nothing makes you go from a socidem to an anarchist faster than watching so many bananas get thrown out. And it pisses me off to no end that they're basically gatekeeping food at, with profit incentive. Mm-hmm. When that food could have been distributed in, a decentralized kind of way, in a more thought out way to end hunger. But instead they're gonna let these strawberries go moldy and we just have to throw them away. It hurts. It physically hurts me to have to find strawberries with mold on them and have to throw them away.
Yeah, there's something visceral about having to throw away perfectly edible food or forcibly let it go bad. And I think that's just like human nature from an evolutionary perspective. We want to hoard food and keep it good because it sustains life. The place I work at, we have a food pantry box. If we have to pull something off the shelves and it's non-perishable or won't be going bad anytime soon, we'll put it in the box and take it to the food pantry when the box is full. But unfortunately, we are in a very, very, very small minority of businesses that does that. What piece of chess would you be? The board. Do either of you feel like the whole make a choice about your life and stick to it thing is really suddenly forced upon teenagers in school? Yeah.
It's gross. Yeah, that's a child. Why are you telling them to choose what they're going to do for the rest of their life? They're barely a sixth of the way through their life potentially, so I don't know. It also, I feel like that sort of stems from the fact that people seem to think their life is over when they turn 30, and that they can't change direction at all, and that they're kind of stuck once they're at 30 and there's nothing else they can do. That's wrong. As long as you're alive, you can do whatever the fuck you want.
I definitely agree that the mono-directional life track sort of mindset is forced upon teenagers, and it kind of discourages them from exploring various avenues in life that they might find satisfaction from.
It's also too much pressure to put on a child. That's why I think colleges are just so unbelievably evil to some extent, is that they essentially force a child to choose what they're going to do for the rest of their life and then pay a mortgage on that. And it's so unbelievably scummy, and other C words.
Next question. Who's Eli? Fuck, I wish I knew. Girl boss. Thoughts?
Gross.
Where are you on the gaslight, girl boss, gatekeep, mansplain, manipulate, male wife spectrum?
Probably mansplain.
I think I'm gaslight. What is the closest either of you have come to facing jail time? Nice try, officer.
It's not that I have respect for the law. It's that I don't leave my house. I don't commit crimes often. With that being said, I have been pulled over 3 times in the past 2 years for speeding.
Speed limits?
Speed limits are for cucks.
They are.
Yeah.
I don't know, because...
Eli's trying not to incriminate themselves.
Also, I've never gotten caught for anything, so...
Yeah, the thing is, like, I've only been caught for speeding, but, like, I mean, at first it was a little funny, and then it got kind of like, wow, this is getting kind of blatant. They let me off with a warning all 3 times. So, you're probably knowing what I'm thinking. It got kind of blatant after a while. Like, the first time I was like, haha, he let me go. And the second time it was like, this is the same officer, I'm going the same speed on the same road. Why did I get let off again? And the third time I was like, okay, there's some... Yeah, I was gonna say preconceived notions about white men, but privilege does that better.
One time I was in a park after dusk, just sitting there. I think I was playing Pokemon Go, and a cruiser pulled up and was like, hey, the park closes at dusk. And I was like, okay, and I left, and that was...
You got kicked out of a park.
I did, because apparently a lot of people did drugs at that park at night, which
I believe
good
that.
for them, but it's the only Pokestop. I have a very real offer from a painfully rich man to be a glucose guardian. I hate the rich, but a bitch gotta pay rent. Advice?
Do it. I consider that redistributing the wealth. Just milk him of all of his money.
Without saying too much about my knowledge in this realm, if you are both consenting adults and this individual is willing to pay for goods and or services that you provide, that sounds like a perfectly legitimate business transaction to me. And all labor is a form of exploitation, and all labor manipulates the body in negative ways. So to me, that's no different than working for a CEO who is also a rich bitch. Being a sugar baby is a job, and it's no different than any other job that you probably get underpaid for. So
it's certainly more useful than being a person that makes NFTs.
Yeah. Be smart about how you go about it, though. I will say being a sugar baby is one of the only job avenues where you're gonna get so many scam offers. Like if you post on LinkedIn, you're not gonna get scams like you're gonna get posting about it on Twitter or something.
Yeah, I will say manipulate that man of all of his money. However, please do not put yourself in a situation that you can't get out of.
Safety first. What reading materials would you recommend to someone who wants to learn about communism in the ways you've described it, not just in the ways it's been portrayed by some media as the devil?
I would be careful not to fall into tanky theory. You can read it as to understand what they're talking about, but whenever I suggest theory, my suggestion is supposed to be like, read it with an open mind, but an open mind meaning go into it ready to accept some things and criticize some things. Mm-hmm. Don't just say, this old white dude said something, now I gotta treat it like law. Which is what Marxists love to do. They love to just treat Marx like an omnipotent being, and it's fucking weird. Go into it critically thinking. However, I'm going to recommend you some anarchist theory. I'm going to recommend you several different anarchist theorists that have kind of differing ideologies, just so you can like read and like think about it and critically engage. Look up Mikhail Bakunin and some of his work, Enrico Malatesta, Murray Bookchin, Peter Kropotkin. And if you want to, further understand your own views on what micro ideas you have on anarchism, you could always just, watch a bunch of fuckers on Twitter debate each other. Did you guys know that the Twitter anarchists had a moment last month where they had a whole drama about whether or not we should technologically advance animals so they don't have to be predators to other animals anymore, to get rid of that animal hierarchy. And it was a moment. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Why would...
I'm against that, by the way.
Have we not fucked with the natural world enough?
Exactly. I personally believe that automation will be liberating to some extent, but I also think that we are playing with God. At a certain extent, there will be an equilibrium that we're going to meet, and we need to, we'll have to fight with that, or come to terms with it at the very least.
For myself, when it comes to reading selections, I tend to go a little broader, and at the same time, I suppose broader in my selection of reading topics, and within those topics, I tend to go niche, and I found that when I go really niche, I find a surprising amount of connection between things that would previously seem disconnected, and I think finding those connections is a very important step to developing a macro way of thinking and understanding that all forms of oppression are related and do impact each other. I enjoy reading Angela Davis. She is constantly putting stuff out that is very useful. Generally, I tend to lean a little more towards critical race theory and feminist theory, as opposed to...
Sometimes queer theory.
Yeah, queer theory as well. One place that I think would be good to start to learn both about communism and socialism, and also other schools of thought that would be important to have a basic understanding of, would be Haymarket Books. They're a radical publisher in Chicago. They've got a website that is very neatly organized, and they kind of have intro to socialism, intro to communism, intro to XYZ. So those can be very useful places to start.
Like I said, don't, idolize him, but reading the Communist Manifesto never hurts. It's very short, and if you are simply a person that cannot, or it's just difficult for you or whatnot, there are Spark Notes. Yeah. I looked it up.
Don't be ashamed. That too. Theory, especially when it's, 100, 150 years old and has been translated, can be really difficult to digest, especially if you don't already have an understanding of the ideas going into the reading. So definitely don't be ashamed of SparkNotesing. I know Marx also has, a lot of his theories have Marx for Beginners versions with illustrations and historical context, and that might sound silly, but it's really important to understand what was going on in the world at that time, because theory doesn't exist in a bubble. Mm-hmm. People come up with ideas and schools of thought in response to what's happening in the world around them. So that's an important understanding to have as well. Do you think that the decline in people doing things because they like it versus the increase of people doing things for money is a direct effect of capitalism, or are people just greedy by nature? I monetized my art, which was previously a hobby and a passion, and it still is, only now I have to fill out tax forms for it, because I needed money to pay for basic necessities that I probably would not be paying such hefty rates for in other parts of the world with other economic systems in place. Unfortunately, it costs a metric fuckload to go to school and live on a campus and eat at a dining hall. Yeah, I do think the habit of monetizing hobbies, which is something I see a lot, and that's how most small businesses start up, especially for creatives. You're good at something that makes a product, and you're like, shit, I could sell this. There is that emotional reward of knowing that your art has touched somebody else and has a place in their home and their heart now. that primary motivation is still to make an income. And I can't say for sure if I would have started selling my art so soon had I not had the cost of school looming over my head like the blade of a guillotine. That was always my plan at some point, but certainly not while still in school. But yes, overall, I do think the decline of sheer hobbyism for the sake of hobbyism, you know, doing things because it's fun and because it's enriching and because you form a community. I definitely think the decline in that and the increase in monetizing every single thing we do is a direct result of capitalism.
Please don't make me go off about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation again. This would be the 4th time. If you're wondering about my intrinsic and extrinsic motivation speech, I say it in my first communism video, and I don't agree with everything I said in that first communism video.
Oh, yes.
But I also made a video that corrects that one, so...
Here's a good follow-up question for that. If money wasn't an issue, what would your life be like? Where would you live? The house you would own? Car, hobbies, etc.?
I don't need a lot. I just need a car that works, maybe has air conditioning. That would be nice. I want a car with air conditioning. This seems like a personal problem, Nick, because it is. I'm literally looking into how I can get a tiny house. I want it very badly. That's all I need. I just need to live. I would probably be able to actually give a shit about hobbies and things I'm good at, or, you know, develop skills that I have potential in. But instead I come home from work every night and I go, fuck, I'm so tired, I can't do shit, and I go to sleep.
I'm quite the opposite. I tend to thrive in pools of people and busyness, and if it were up to me, I would live in a big city. However, my mom has asked me not to because she doesn't want me to get murdered. If money was an issue, I would live in Armenia. I would repatriate to Yerevan, the capital. I would be an artist in the center of the city, ideally. I would do traditional arts. I would learn Armenian and Persian. I would generally be more invested in my culture if I had the financial access to it. Because unfortunately, although America does have a really big population of Armenian immigrants, cultural hubs of Armenians aren't super common. In the area we live in, there's a lot of Polish cultural hubs.
Yeah. There's a lot of Polish people.
A lot of Polish people, German people.
People. The south side of Chicago has a lot of Irish and Italians.
A lot of Irish and Italians.
There is Chinatown, but...
There is, yes.
What are your opinions on weed? I wouldn't do it personally, but I support when other people want to do it. I'm literally an anarchist. I don't give a shit.
For legal reasons, I cannot answer this question. Do you have a favorite author? I used to read so much more than I did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I have gifted kid burnout syndrome, and now I'm illiterate. I know when I was still mostly reading young adult fiction, big fan of Rick Riordan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the only one that comes to mind.
Uncle Rick, fantastic. I was also really into Laurie Halse Anderson, because although her books do have some problems with portraying certain elements of the world, especially in relation to mental health treatment, reading Winter Girls did have an impact in how I understood my eating disorder and how I thought about it. So she kind of has a fond place in my heart for that reason. I tend to read more nonfiction than anything nowadays, and I typically kind of hang out in the hub of medicine and science, because although I'm an art major, most of my education has been in medicine and science. Mary Roach is an author I enjoy. She wrote Stiff, which is all about cadavers and the weird stuff that the body does after death, which sounds very morbid, and it is, but she writes about it in a very interesting and irreverent way.
I tend to stay in the fiction. Although a part of my brain really wants to get into non-fiction stuff like medical apartheid.
Mm-hmm.
I simply don't have motivation to do anything ever. So my brain, a commenter put it very, very nicely once. It was under my, the US American education system is bad video. And the way they put it was, I felt like reading became a chore because of schoolwork. So I instead started reading fan fiction because it felt like it wasn't schoolwork.
Yeah.
It's like that. A lot of the way my brain works now has been molded by school and how it fucked me up. If it feels like it's work, my brain immediately goes, I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
So-
same realm here. I can chug 100,000 word fan fiction like nobody's business. And someone's gonna laugh and say, haha, you fan fiction readers. Shut up, the world's about to burst into flames. If I want to read fan fiction, I'm gonna. I agree, generally. I used to be such a big reader because it felt very engaging and stimulating, and it still does when I force myself to. But it's so difficult to get over that hurdle of like, this is intellectual labor and it's going to make me exhausted. Even when I'm reading fiction. And speaking of fiction, another author I forgot, Julianne Peters, another young adult fiction author. She was kind of my first foray into queer fiction as a teenager who was just figuring out that I was queer. So she also has a special place in my heart. When did you know you were non-binary? I don't think there was a concrete age. It was a process of eventually reaching identifying as non-binary. And I identify as non-binary because I like how broad it is, and I otherwise do not jive very heavily with more definitive labels of gender, I'll say. Sometime in high school, early high school, freshman or sophomore year probably. I do know one of the inciting incidents, if you will, to getting on that journey was I followed someone on DeviantArt who stylized their name Victoria, but there was a slash between the C and the T, so they were like Vic for short as a more masculine form. And I was like, holy shit, you can do that? And that's why I go by Eli. My name is Elizabeth, and you can call me Elizabeth if you want. I don't know why you would unless you're my mom and I'm in trouble. I like having that option of Eli versus Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Why?
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 Good question. I'd like to fucking know too.
God, how long do you plan on doing YouTube?
Bro, I don't fucking know. The amount of times I have considered quitting is...
Yes. We're getting into Nick's Joker backstory.
I've already declared my villain arc on YouTube publicly, so we're already here. You can only go through so many videos hitting more than 100K views that is particularly controversial without suddenly getting to your villain arc.
Do you like horror movies? If so, which movies have you seen?
Recently, especially, I realized that I have the attention span of a goddamn starfish, and I cannot sit through a movie. I can't. I have to put it at 1.5 or 2 times speed because I cannot sit through a movie. Part of it is the capitalist thing where it like feels like I'm wasting time. So it needs to go fast. But also I get so bored. It feels like there's so many unnecessary pauses, which I know are artistic, but I can't do it. So...
Nerd. This artistic pause doesn't serve the plot.
I am rational and pragmatic.
Sigma male?
Ligma male? Is it better than Sigma?
What's Sigma, Nick?
Smegma male? Better
Stop!
than...
So what horror movies do you like?
I had a coworker that was like, have you seen Midsommar? And I was like, no. And she was like, it's fucked up. And I was like, fucked up? You got my attention.
I am Ari Aster's little bitch. I love Midsommar. I don't care how fucking overrated it is.
I love it.
If you decide to watch it, Google it first. You're gonna spoil a bit of it for yourself, but no amount of reading about the movie is going to prepare you for the visual experience of what happens. So don't worry about spoiling it for yourself. It's worth it even if you know exactly what's gonna happen.
It is fucked up. Like, even
It's
my
bad.
emotionless self is like, hey, be careful, okay?
Yeah, proceed with caution with Midsommar. However, if you like, I wouldn't quite call it horror. It is certainly very
Psychological.
It is psychological. It's a disturbing film. It's distressing. It kind of probes at your most visceral emotions and reactions to certain events in life. Really good movie. Overall, about horror movies, I do like them. I'm bad at watching them, both because I'm bad at watching movies for the same reasons Nick is, And also, I scare super easily. I am a weenie. I do scream at predictable jump scares. So
I will have physical reactions, but I like to think that there's survival instincts. I won't facially react to it, but my heart rate will speed up because I am a person, an animal, and my body.
I will shit my pantaloons.
Eli's over here like, yeah, no, something jumps out and I like turn into...
It's over. Jostle counter. Me at the table.
Eli just turns into like a puddle of a person.
I do.
And I just kind of go, oh fuck.
I've been getting better at watching movies because I've been watching movies with friends, which makes it feel less like a time waster. I'm like, it valued social engagement. I watched The Ritual recently, which, if you liked The Witch, which came out in 2015, if you liked The Witch, and it did get a lot of critical acclaim, you'll like The Ritual. It's kind of in that same vein of very subversive, it's not overdone. It is your standard, oh no, cult in the woods sort of movie, but it's done in a way that isn't bland. This isn't really horror, this is more so action suspense, but I liked Hush a lot. That's on Netflix. I know we also watched The Babadook together, which is a staple.
Staple you see, it's not like fantastic, and when the dog dies, it's very obviously a doll, but
Cult classic.
It's just one of those, you know?
You gotta watch it. Add it to your Halloween playlist. What's your most favorite thing in the world?
My cat.
Good answer.
Good answer. He's a good boy.
Also, Nick's cat.
He's such a good boy.
Primordial pouch. If he's your cat, then why am I jiggling his primordial pouch?
I got caught.
What would you be for Halloween? Slutty plague doctor. I'm going to a showing of Rocky as a slutty plague doctor.
That's fantastic. I thought that was just like hypothetical, but no,
it's in the works.
You're putting your money where your mouth is.
I have the plague doctor part already. I just need to slut it up.
I can trust you to slut it up. Mm-hmm. I don't celebrate holidays because I'm a unfun bastard. Next question.
Are you going to release any more songs soon? If so, which planet are you doing next?
Great question. Okay, so to explain myself, I filmed the music video last December. I got paralyzed. I don't know how to explain this, other than paralyzed with anxiety about my worth as a musician.
Are you having imposter syndrome?
Yes. I just feel like I'm very untalented. I had a moment, and then I also moved out. And I have to be at my job 24/7. So, and I've already mentioned my lack of motivation. So one of the songs has been mostly done. The other song is technically mostly done, but I hate it and I'm going to create a different one. It's Mars. I'm going in order. When that music video comes out, it's going to look like me in 2020 of December, which means my hair is going to be 8 inches shorter and I'm going to be 30 pounds heavier. So
I sing. You should guest feature me in one of your songs.
Do you want to sing?
I could sing.
You want to sing? Actually, I'm going to make you rap.
No!
No rap feature from Lil Eli?
I'm going to kill you. The next song is none of them because I'm murdering them.
The next song is going to be an entire hip-hop song by Lil Eli, and it's going to be called I Killed Nick.
How did you figure out that you're a communist?
I like basic human rights.
I hate money. Would you rather live somewhere rural or in the city? City.
Rural.
Rank the Hogwarts houses. Also, Nick, do you still hate Gryffindor?
I don't hate Gryffindor, I just think they're dumb sometimes.
My rating for the Hogwarts house would be Children of Poseidon, the Cullens, Dauntless, and
Shrek from Shrek 3?
Shrek from Shrek 3.
Arguably the worst Shrek.
Rating Shrek movies should be our next long haul. How to get over my gacha addiction, and coffee is gross. Second one's not a question, but it is wrong. You play gachas, I don't, so.
Listen, I got bullied into playing a gacha. And the reason why I do not have a gacha addiction is because I have so much money anxiety that I simply cannot spend it on anything. However, I do have a $5 Zhongli who want him. I have no help for you there other than just become anxious about money.
A favorite type of math? None of them.
None of them.
I'm completely serious when I ask this, but do you still have hope for humanity?
That's a loaded question, and I feel like I simply cannot predict the future as of now. I think that we are fucked in certain aspects, but there are certain aspects that can be mitigated at this point. So it entirely depends on our actions now and, in the near future. A better future is possible, but it may not be possible for long.
Humanity is such a vague and intangible concept, and it prompts me to wonder what place it really has when we consider the state of the world. Because, humanity can't lead revolutions, and humanity can't reform corrupt governments, and humanity can't undo a lot of the wrongdoings of the world. So I wouldn't say that I don't have hope for humanity, but I don't place a lot of value on it. Like, it's not the horse I would bet on in the race of what's going to change the world. I do think change is coming. I can't tell you which direction it's coming in, but I think the world is reaching kind of a point of critical stagnation, where things have gotten just bad enough that we're either going to force it along in a positive direction, or it's going to tip off the edge of that cliff entirely. Maybe that will happen in our lifetimes, maybe not. Maybe it'll start and then stop and then start again. Maybe it'll start and then be forced in the other direction. I don't know.
Something will happen in our lifetimes. It entirely depends if nothing happens. If nothing happens, something will happen.
What is your taste in music in present day?
Late 2000s, early 2010s emo and K-pop, which means I have a completely irreparable taste in music.
My music taste is pretty all over the place consistently. I'm a big fan of... Recently I've also been in the 2000s, 2010s punk, rock, pop genre. I'm a big fan of folk songs from various parts of the world. I've been listening to a lot of the instrumental of Warrior on HBO Max. If you haven't watched it, go do it. But I really like the soundtrack for that. The Promare soundtrack, too. Do you listen to true crime? And if you do, how much? And what is the most gruesome case you've ever heard of?
I don't really listen to true crime, at least not beyond, BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah, BuzzFeed Unsolved is all I'll listen to. I don't trust other people to handle true crime in a respectful way.
I've actually seen good criticisms on true crime lately where they were like, these white women with true crime podcasts kind of give the police too much respect, and they don't, touch on the fact that the police are the reason a lot of these true crime cases are unsolved.
Did you delete your podcast?
Yes, I did. I couldn't keep up with it anymore, and it felt like it was looming over my head. I'm the type of person that sometimes just needs a clean slate on things, so I just got rid of it altogether. Maybe someday I'll do something again. But for right now, I just cannot handle it.
What happened to your Stan Twitter account?
I got rid of it.
Will you ever download Cookie Run Kingdom?
No.
No. How to sleep when paranoid. If there are steps you can take to intercept your paranoia, such as alterations to your environment, do that. Don't be ashamed of sleeping with the lights on, or putting a chair in front of your door if you're paranoid about break-ins. Small alterations like that can feel silly or feel over the top, but at the end of the day, it's a piece of moved furniture. And don't bully your brain about what it wants when it's paranoid, so long as it's reasonable and not harmful. That's a very generic tip, because paranoia can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Talk to someone. Not necessarily like a therapist, you should, but obviously if it's 2 a.m. and you can't sleep, you can't call your therapist. Don't be afraid to rely on your friends or crisis rooms or stuff like that. What are some things you would like to accomplish? I would like to be a gallery artist, go back to Armenia, and then die at the age of 27.
Tiny house, died before the age of 40.
How do you educate an older person on trans people, and how do you figure out if it's safe to come out? There are so many factors involved in both those questions.
If you're trying to figure out whether it's safe to come out, I would probe in a third person kind of way. Like, there's like a trans news thing going on, be like, oh, what do you think of that? And if they respond violently, then assume they're going to respond violently.
Always err on the side of caution. How do you educate an older person on trans people? There are resources for that. I will just once again say, because I feel like sometimes we get questions that veer into this territory, we aren't a directory of resources. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I'm not a licensed therapist.
We're not therapists nor educators in the way that people are sometimes asking. And just really broad sweeping questions like this that are so reliant on so many different factors we're not able to give great answers for. For an older person, I would probably start by looking at the PFLAG website, Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Return to Monkey, or mysteriously abandon everyone and live in a cabin in the woods alone.
God, you are giving me two great options.
I think Monkey was a mistake. Multicellular life was a mistake. Return to Soup.
The mysterious third option.
Soup.
Human, monkey, soup.
The three genders.
I would like to return to monkey because they don't have to pay taxes.
That's true. Opinions on the whole pro-ship versus anti-ship debate in fandoms, and what's your favorite color? Gray.
I like purple. Also, we both agree that both pro-shippers and anti-shippers are fucking stupid. None of you have nuance.
Be normal.
Be a normal person.
Don't be gross. If you engage or create immoral content for coping reasons, understand that it's a tool for your toolbox and not for anyone else's, and don't put it in public spaces.
Don't be a pearl-clutching Midwestern white woman.
Don't think that shipping is activism, because it's not. Don't think that being in fandom is activism, because it's not. Overall, I think both sides discredit and harm victims of grooming, incest, pedophilia, etc. I think both sides are doing absolutely nothing helpful for anyone.
Yeah, it's pretty 1 or 100, and I think that's kind of stupid as hell.
How do you feel about the whole problematic versus non-problematic queer representation debate? I think this is also a very stupid debate. In regards to real people, I want everyone to dissociate the word representation from real people. Okay, real people aren't representation.
That's some liberal shit.
Nobody owes you representation the way you want to have it.
Sometimes queer people are bad. Sometimes, Jeffree Star comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes queer people do bad things. Sometimes queer people do good things. Do I think straight people taking the concept of a queer person and purposefully making it bad for propaganda, is that a bad thing? Sure, why not? Other than that, we need to be more realistic about the concept of a marginalized person and how, they're real people. They're all individuals with different opinions and different ethical and moral codes. As
this is applied to fiction, I still think it's foolish. And I think this isn't the question we need to ask. I think the question is more so, who created this queer media and why?
Yeah, exactly.
There's a difference between queer people telling queer stories and straight people bastardizing queer stories.
Or straight people creating even worse propaganda.
That too. Because remember, fiction doesn't exist in a vacuum. Fiction is created by people for consumption by other people. And it makes those people think and feel certain things. And I think that's what we need to be looking at. Representation is just, I think, a little too broad, and I think when we talk about representation, it's so easily derailed. If you want to talk about the impacts media has, you gotta get a little more narrow with what impacts you're talking about, and that requires some research into the ways that media makes people think. But I think that's necessary research. It's an important area of understanding to have. And I also feel this debate is exceptionally foolish when it is leveled at queer people. I follow a lot of webcomic artists who are queer and telling queer stories who get so much shit for not doing it right. And all I can say about that is shut up. Nobody is obligated to give you representation the way you want to see it. Like, if you're that pressed about it, make it yourself. Other queer people are entitled to tell their stories how they want them to be told. And those might be flawed or damaging. And I'm not saying don't take things critically, but also don't police the telling of queer experiences and stories, even in fiction.
That feels like a leg of the pro-shipper, anti-shipper debate.
Yeah, let things exist and address them with critical thought and address them if they're causing tangible harm. I don't think you can solve the problem of media causing harm by just making sweeping statements that XYZ shouldn't exist or shouldn't be portrayed in fiction.
Authoritarian, pearl-clutching policing of content is not going to liberate anyone. Not critically examining content is not going to liberate anyone either. There needs to be a nice little balance, but the internet doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah. Hello, I just want to say that I adore your channel. I've been watching since your Harry Potter days, and that I love how unapologetic you are. I wanted to ask if you're still into K-pop and who you listen to at the moment.
My K-pop fixation is not as intense as it was when I was 15. Mostly just because with the expansion of people that have entered the fandom, it has gotten much, much worse than it already was. But also because the West has gotten into it. I'm going to do a West bad moment. The music has gotten considerably worse. I am struggling to find songs to even put in my top 10 list this year because it's gotten that bad, where it sounds like Monsta X just released a fucking song that sounded like a goddamn Charlie Puth Maroon 5 song. I can't do it. I simply cannot do it. Also, I'm a Teddy auntie. I fucking hate that producer. I will not lie, Money by Lalisa kinda slaps, but otherwise the man needs to retire a little bit, okay? He literally produces the same song over and over and over again, and you guys eat it up every goddamn time.
Dude, I've never been a big K-pop person. What political beliefs do your other family members have? I'm far left, even though my entire family's far right. Decently left.
Well, my sister is she's gotten to more anarchist territory as well, but she doesn't like to label it. My dad is a conservative. As for my mom, she's like, we can have open dialogue about leftist topics, and she's very open to getting new information. She kind of holds on to certain liberal concepts, but I feel like that is a Gen X woman thing to do, is just, hope that your Democrats are not as horrible as they actually are. But I can usually get through to her because we can have an open intellectual dialogue with one another. So,
do you believe communism has its flaws? Are you for or against police/law enforcement?
My entire second response to my first communism video is literally just me going, authoritarianism bad. I literally hate the upper left part of the political compass.
Everything has flaws. No system is perfect and is good for everybody. That's an unfortunate reality, but that is just the way it is. As for the second question, please don't equate police and law enforcement. Police are a created structure from certain forms of law enforcement. It's important to remember that not everywhere in the world enforces laws and enacts justice the same ways, nor have they done that throughout history. I think it's important to remember that police are not the law, and they are not justice. And simply because someone is arrested or imprisoned does not mean they've done something wrong or illegal. Also, just because something's illegal doesn't mean it's wrong.
Exactly. I'm simply also just against laws. I just do not centralize the moral code.
Do not centralize the moral code. Do not privatize the police forces.
Yeah.
I am very against police, especially as they exist in the United States and other colonial states. I recently had a discussion with someone who kind of had the view of like the good cops, and I read a book that was very eye-opening, kind of on the idea of the good cop. The book is called The Line Becomes a River, and it is about a border patrol officer. And it's one of those stories that you have to read cover to cover to really get the picture. However, I would say the most important part is the epilogue, where the author, after telling us the story of his several-year stint in BP, realizes that even if you go into a structure like Border Patrol or like the police, thinking that you can be one of the good apples, you're still in a bad barrel. And he eventually realized that along the way, and the way he phrased it was he had become the thing that crushed, because he always kind of referred to the bad Border Patrol agents as this monster that was crushing things underfoot. You can't join a shitty and corrupt institution and still not be shitty and corrupt yourself, for the same reason you can't get in a pool and stay dry.
It's the same thing for US politicians. Yes, the squad is not good. I'm sorry. You cannot join US politics and not be corrupted by it. Even without the specific focus on police, I'm simply against the state and all forms of hierarchy. So, what radicalized you? Was there a distinct thing, or did it happen little by little? It was little by little.
Little by little.
I think it's funny, I noticed that a lot of my views I had when I was 10, I have now reverted back to. I started an anarchist, became a socialdem, and then went back to being an anarchist. It's almost as if 10-year-old me was very based.
What's your opinion on fandoms as a whole? What do you think makes a good or bad fandom? And what fandom has the best or worst rep? Fandoms are a form of community based upon mutual interest, as many other communities are. And that is about the most sweeping statement I can make.
What do you think makes them good or bad? Behavior?
Yeah.
General behavior of the fandom.
Being good people or bad people. What fandom is the best or worst rep?
The My Hero Academia fandom does not have a good fandom rep.
Minecraft YouTubers.
K-pop stans.
Rick and Morty.
And this is the worst rep, by the way.
This is the worst rep.
Best rep? No, there's not a lot of good rep. I think if you put a lot of mentally ill people that are
Coping with fiction.
coping
into one
together,
space.
it becomes a festering pile of mental illness.
It really is. Do you have any personal advice you'd give to an up-and-coming YouTuber?
Don't.
Do it.
You need to be ready for the amount of eyes that are going to be on you. You need to be ready for criticism, and you need to be ready to figure out how you're going to handle that and whether or not you can, and test your own boundaries to see where they lie. Second piece of advice, you don't need fancy equipment to do it. Sometimes it makes things easier, sometimes it just makes things harder.
Any fandoms or fandom discourse? Sure.
I think you guys fighting over whether Traveler is a minor in Genshin Impact is fucking stupid, and I need you guys to stop with your Instagram slideshows with all of the evidence you have on Traveler being a minor. Well, who the fuck cares? Who cares? Shut up.
Go outside, touch grass.
Touch some grass.
Pineapple on pizza. Never tried it. Not going to.
I don't like it.
This is important. What are your top 3 favorite numbers and why?
Number 2, because my last name starts with a B and I was always number 2 in elementary school. Number 14, because it's 007 and I think that's quirky.
I'm gonna cyberbully you in the comments of this video. I don't have any favorite numbers. I can't count.
69, because it's the sex number.
Nice.
Yeah.
What are your career goals if you currently have any? Gallery artist, / freelance and commission artist.
What's a career goal?
Why are you gay? Probably Avatar: The Last Airbender. When did you get into politics, and would you be friends with someone of opposing views?
Depends on the opposing views. What do you mean by opposing views?
Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
I just don't have room in my life for people who don't think human rights are good. I don't have a friendship survey where I make everyone be the same level of leftist that I am. But I also won't tolerate
Whatever the
bullshit.
fuck far right is doing.
Yeah. What do you think about the whole SeaWorld situation?
Fuck SeaWorld.
Don't know enough, but fuck SeaWorld. What are y'all's MBTI personalities type?
INTJ.
The architect, whichever that one is.
Both of us.
How do you keep your skin so clear?
I don't. I'm wearing makeup.
Me too. Have you seen Squid Game? If so, what are your thoughts on it? I'm on like episode 2, but
I-
good.
I have seen it. I think my thoughts on it were, God damn it, not another dystopian death game. I think what makes it stick in people's heads is the characters. People like them a lot, and I do think that the characters are what made the show, not necessarily the concept of the show itself.
What's your favorite ice cream flavor? Cookies and cream?
I like
Or
cookie.
cookie dough?
Yeah.
Yes. Top 5 favorite YouTube channels. Binging with Babish, Robin Sealark, Tanya Shatseva, Critical Role, Binging with Babish again, because he has multiple, like, channels.
Gus Johnson, Curtis Connor.
What does your ideal utopia look like? I am dead.
Ideal utopia is the concept of consciousness never existing in the first place.
What's your favorite band / artist? Green Day. Worst fandom you've ever been in?
I literally was a K-pop stan. Next question.
Does appearance really matter?
No.
No. How do you feel about the Texas abortion law?
Gross.
Bad. Do you guys think anarchism would really work in America, or do you believe it wouldn't work and could possibly make things worse? I can't read the fucking future.
It would take a lot of shifting the minds of certain people because Americans suck off the concept of a state and law. They literally do not, they cannot fathom life without it. I need them to separate themselves from the concept of law.
Are you aware of the fact that you are very cool? Yes, by my art.
So swag.
Shut the fuck up. Do you like fish? We're getting sushi after this video.
I'm a vegetarian.
Do you like mustard?
I don't mind
No.
it.
Favorite art medium? Clay. Favorite cryptid, and why is it Mothman? So fuckable. Opinions on cheese?
I don't eat it. I'm like vegan light right now because I have to recover from an eating disorder, so.
I'm not fond of it. Have you ever committed arson? Nice try, officer!
We got through literally every question, and I don't know which ones are going in and which ones aren't, but there will be outtakes.
Have
Anyways,
fun editing this
this is going to be horrible.
monster.